Shabbat Shalom. This week we read from a new sefer of the Torah, the book of Exodus, as we begin Parshat Shmot. And Shmot, as you know, begins the story of our long enslavement in Egypt. As the Torah says, Vayakom melech hadash, and there arose a new king over Egypt, Asher lo yada et Yosef, who didn't know Joseph. What does the Torah mean that he didn't know Joseph? Does it mean that so many years had passed that the name Joseph went into the oblivion of history and was forgotten? Does it mean that this Pharaoh knew nothing of the greatness of Joseph and what he did for his predecessor? What does it mean? Well, the Imrei Eish, who was the grand rabbi of the Mojeser Hasidim in Bnei Brak, who died in 1984, answers that question this way. He said what he didn't know about Yosef was he didn't know that no matter what happened to Yosef, no matter how terrible the turn of events in Yosef's life, it always turned out for good. We remember that Yosef was so hated by his brothers that they wanted to kill him, yet they sold him into slavery. How terrible that was, but he ended up in the house of Potiphar, one of the most powerful people in all of Egypt. And Yosef became the most important of Potiphar's servants. And after resisting the sexual advances of Potiphar's wife, Yosef ended up in prison. And it turns out that prison was the direct line to the palace of Pharaoh himself. No matter what happened to Yosef, it turned out for the good. And if this new king had known this about Yosef and his descendants, maybe he wouldn't have enslaved us, because it was the bitterness of slavery that allowed Geulah, that allowed the redemption and the exodus from Egypt, that made it possible for us to stand at the foot of Mount Sinai and to receive Torah from God's hand, and made it possible for us to enter into the land and inherit what we had lost through slavery. If not for the terrible experience of slavery, we would not have learned how to govern and take care of the weak and the poor and the marginalized in society. And so too it happens in our own lives. When events happen beyond our control that are terrible, we should know that we are descendants of Joseph. And like our ancestor, and like his descendants in Egypt, even that which is happening now, which is painful, which is agonizing, can also turn out to be something good if we remember that the goal of life is to live a life of Torah and a life of mitzvot. This too shall pass, and this too ultimately shall be for the good. Shabbat Shalom, and may you have a Zis and Shabbos.